Simon, and Commissioner Pittman will lead us in our invocation.
Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Do work for this community. God, we ask that you just have the decisions that are made here tonight. You guide us and give us wisdom to discern do the work of the county citizens. Thank you for the blessings. Thank you for this place on us. Thank you for the goodness of your son, God, for us.
Commissioner Harding, will you roll?
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has the board had a chance to read the ethics and awareness? Any conflicts? We'll move on to additions or changes to the agenda. There is none. We'll move on to the adoption of the agenda.
Move.
Second.
Has everybody had a chance to look and review the minutes? Oh, yeah, we need to, sorry, we need to take a vote on the agenda. Alright, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes, if everybody's had a chance to review those.
I make a motion, we accept those as presented.
A second.
Vote. Fine. Moving right along, item number 9 is Air Employee of the Month. So, Air Employee of the Month is Miss Kathy Frago. Kathy, you have been nominated and selected as the February Employee of the Month winner for going beyond the call of duty in the meeting of the IT needs of the county. You never hesitate to go out of your way to ensure IT issues are addressed immediately, even if you're currently not working. You are always willing to come in on your days off to assist with any IT problems that the department may be encountering. You are very diligent in following up once the issue has been resolved. Being proactive with departments that are having vendor system updates to confirm that everything is running smoothly is viable in reducing potential system issues and allows for a reduction in downtime should there be any issue. You also go above and beyond by taking the initiative to learn and work with outside systems that our departments utilize to fully understand how these systems work so that you can troubleshoot any issues should they arise. Thank you for always looking for ways to improve processes that deliver a more efficient and cost savings outcome for the county, and always having a positive attitude and pleasant demeanor makes it a pleasure for those that work with you. Congratulations on being selected as the Mitchell County Employee of the Month for February. On behalf of the county commissioners and the Mitchell County, thank you for representing the county in a positive manner and your dedication and contributions to providing IT support and solutions for the day-to-day operations. I appreciate you being very patient with me, not being very tech savvy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Can I just say one thing? I think folks deserve it. Good job, Doc. I'm not gonna do it.
Well, I can't tell you the number of times she set up new passwords for me. And
All righty, Miss Jessie, you're up. Hello.
The collections activity report that you have a copy of collected for the month of February is $325,312.95. And I've been asked about the North Carolina debt set-off program. The debts must be at least 60 days delinquent, $50 or more. And you may have had some questions about the debt set-off.
Will you repeat that? I'm sorry, we were having some tech issues, speaking of, or I was having some tech issues.
The debts must be 60 days delinquent,
Okay.
$50 or more,
Okay,
and we send a claim
okay.
on any delinquent debts.
So has that been productive, like this?
It is.
Okay.
I do have some numbers. We submit these in November or December every year before you file your taxes, state taxes. We've got 117 debtors in, taxpayers in the program right now. And 30 of those have been set off, which is 26% taxpayers. The set off amount, as this was the January report, is $14,812. It's slow, it's smaller of the state tax returns.
That's also lottery win-ins. or
Lottery, yes.
Any other undiscovered gains that,
Insurance, medical, insurance, that's not like. And the pre-foreclosure activity that's going on. Letters were sent out last week certified to the top 25. And the number of responses we've had have been 5, with a payment agreement and down payment of $15,688. And this was a matter of a week's period. Okay. We've had one person pay in full from those letters. There's 4 taxpayers that have contacted me this week. We're in the works right now. So that's 10 people out of 25 that had either verbal response or actual signed agreement or payment. We hope we get the rest of the 25, 15. The 30-day deadline for this letter is March 24th, which the county attorney, you'll be getting a report of those if we've not heard from them by March 24th. Question?
Yes,
Jesse?
ma'am.
Okay, you go first, Jeff.
It appears that from 2011, 2021, 10 years, almost $1.3 million of taxes that are property taxes not been paid. Looking back at a report that we got a couple of months ago, the list went on and on. Some of these people have haven't paid anything back. And I understand that people get behind, people run into situations. I also understand that you out there also that want to be consistent, and so far in Mitchell County, been successful in being consistent. I think you gave 117 people's, not their names, but there were 117 individuals that were behind on taxes that you had sent letters out to. I want to know about the other 305. Everybody was on that list. And what we're going to do about this. Because I'm adamant about this. If I have to pay my taxes, and it's not easy. If my mother, after age, yep, which she did, it's not right. For everybody else, everybody that's on that. 60 days old.
On the debt set off.
Can we send a letter to everybody that was on that list? And let them know, Mr. County, you're gonna pay your taxes, or we're gonna do something about it. You know, it's not fair. And I'm not picking on you or the tax office or anybody, but I'm saying equal is equal. And if you've got situations, I'm sure that your office works with people every single day to come in and say, let us help you. I know that people run into financial situations. But then while I'm on a soapbox, I'll just go ahead and say it. I know some of these people that I saw their name. They can pay the tax. They're not. They're beating the system. So I look back at this and what did Mitchell County do with $1.3 million or an extra million? So point made, I hope there's something that y'all can do, and I hope you will aggressively do that. I'm only one commissioner with one copy here, but I'd like to see us be more aggressive and start going after every bit of this money that's up.
To start with, on this pre-foreclosure letters, we started out with the top dollar amount and worked our way down. 25 this month. For the next, I've got the next 75 already full. The dollar amount was going down.
Okay, let me ask you a question. On a piece of property that taxes haven't been paid in 10 years, and it's over $5,000 of back taxes, is that something that we should be going after? Is that $5,000 and they not pay taxes in 10 years?
We will eventually get to that number. We're starting at the highest and working our way
Okay,
down.
can't we
Do it
just do it
all
all? I know it's a lot of work. And maybe I don't see the big picture with this, but it seems like some of these people are gonna pay taxes.
Okay, my list right now, 25, the very bottom that I have is $5,000. So it starts at 24, it's at 5,000. So my next one will include that 5,000 on down.
Okay.
So that's pretty quick. If that helps.
Is legal manpower part of the issue there? I mean, just
There is a lot
legal
of work.
expertise that required in this.
What's the foreclosures?
Yeah, what's that pursuit? Is that why we cap at 25?
You know, I don't think the attorney would be
I guess what I'm saying though, Blair, and I understand that process. But can't we garnish the wages? Their tax returns, any income they earn on a piece of property, they're banking. I guess that's the route that I'm talking about right now. If these people are contacted and they make no effort to come in, then that's the next step I'd like to see us do from top to bottom.
Work-
If it's 1,000 people, I want to go after all 1,000 people. I'm sorry.
those kind of activities.
Yeah. They are. They're already going. Bank attachments, wage garnishments to debt set off.
Okay, could I come over one day and sit down and talk to you and say, hey, I've got these two names here. What's getting done?
Yeah. We can show it to you.
Collect this money.
Sure.
Because I know these individuals, they may not work. They're drawing income off a piece of property.
But what if could they be bankrupt? No, don't know.
I could say some things. but I'll
Okay,
give myself
okay.
more
We'll
trouble.
do-
But it's gonna be worth it.
Because you know we can't, yeah, we can't touch.
Thank
You answered my question, so.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions? Did we have anybody that wanted to sign up for public comment? Go first. Alrighty, we will move on to item 11A. Blair, that's you. Yeah.
I'm sure that everybody is well aware of the assessment notices. Right.
That's what I heard.
I've been made aware of it all day today. And now is the time for us to schedule when the Board of E&R wants to meet.
When do we have to meet by?
No later than the end of April. My suggestion would be the second full week of April. We try to schedule at least a day or two that week. We probably need, and really it would be an estimate at this point, I think a couple of days for maybe a 3-week period, and we might have to add some more.
How many days total do you think, Blair?
Well, if we can do 2 days a week for the 3 weeks, and then we can gauge it a little better. If we have to add some more, we might have to run another.
So starting with which week would you,
The week of the 11th through the 15th.
and do 2 days that week?
Right.
Okay.
So if you all can tell me what days you would like to pencil that in, and if we need to extend those hours to later in the morning and then run it on into the afternoon to give people the opportunity to come in, then that's not a problem. We can adjust our schedules to that. We have done that in the past. Right, and we just want to do 2 days a week for the first 3 weeks. If we need more additional days, then we can discuss that. It would require us to advertise again.
I won't be available that following week,
What, the
So
18th?
the 18th, yeah, to the 22nd. So I could take that first week.
Well, we do the 12th.
I could do the 12th. What, can we do long hours so we can get them? I guess like 7 to 7, so.
My gosh, okay, I don't want to do that.
7.
I'm not-
Let's
Some of us are old, man.
let's
Let's not get carried away.
Can we pack them into, I guess,
If we're gonna be
my
here,
boss
then-
is here, so, the fewer days I can take off, the better, so. 7 to 7. Good Lord. This is the working board. I can do that first, I can do that first. I'm happy to do 7 to 7. I can get
Is
somebody to
there
join
any
me.
preference on the days, and then we can get into the
Tuesdays,
times?
that week, Tuesday would work good
Okay.
for me.
Somebody have an extra one.
Here you go.
So Tuesday.
I'm good with that Tuesday.
Okay. But
You
what
need
other day?
3 commissioners.
3
per day?
commissioners, yeah.
Mondays and Fridays are gonna be bad. So it don't matter.
Okay. I know Wednesdays is usually a conflict for folks trying to get to church.
I can do any evening late, I mean,
Okay.
from 3 on.
And, you know, we could do a late half a day,
Well, I can
you
do
know,
any.
start at 1 o'clock or something
If you
and
say
run on
7
to.
to 7, 3 days in a row, I might.
I can do,
I don't know that I can sustain that.
I can do any days, late. in the evening.
Okay.
So I could do all 5 days that if you want to do all 5 days.
Steve's not here. I think this is a good time to nominate Steve for that.
Do we want to shoot for, say, Tuesdays and Thursdays, those 3 weeks, and then we can try to sort out the
Probably.
schedule and, any notion on how you want to run the times?
Not 7.
Not 7 to 7.
Yeah, I'd prefer we did.
Well, I figure a lot of people want to come in after work, so we may want to.
Do it later in the afternoon.
And I can do any of those outside of my work day. I can do.
Okay, do we want to shoot for like 1 to 7 on those days, or
What time frame do you normally do? Like how many hours? 6,
6
5,
or 8?
3,
Yeah.
6, 8? Not 12?
Usually don't start till like 10, do we?
Right, and we've done them in the morning and then run into
One-
6:30
to 7
in
would,
the afternoon.
1 to 7 would be good for me, or even noon to 7 would be fine.
Do we want to run all 3 weeks that way?
Start over. Start over.
And if we have to add additional days, then, that's just, that's kind of par for the course.
The
And we might have to do some 7 to 7 that last week to get them in.
Okay. Well, phew. I ain't hardly had my coffee. That's it.
A lot of this will depend on
How many
how many
people?
signups we have.
Right.
Which I don't think there will be
Right, and
a
by
lack of
starting,
signups.
by starting that second full week in April, we're gonna allow the appraisal firm to work through all their reviews. They're gonna be reviewing property through the end of March, and I suspect they'll probably have field visits and stuff that first week of April that they'll have to.
Will they give us, where will the recommend? And none of us that I'm aware of is an expert on excuse me. None of us is an expert on property value, so will that firm be giving us advice on? the way we
I'll be
should-
there.
Okay,
I serve as the clerk to that board.
okay.
And of course, by that point, the presumption under law is the tax appraisal is correct.
Mm.
And we'll have to
The
see
burden.
evidence that it's not.
The burden of proof will be on the.
Right.
Gotcha.
We have a commissioner meeting on the 19th of April, so we can't do that one. Don't
Okay.
we? The 19th doesn't work, sorry.
All right.
That's the week that
No.
I'm out.
Yeah,
so.
we can start at 7 in the morning and go right into a commission. Maybe get home at 10 o'clock.
You want to pick a different day that week?
I won't be here that week.
Oh.
That week, so whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, firm. What do you guys think?
Between us on a Wednesday, so that may rule that out, and 18th is Monday with the High County Council, so that means Steve probably. Either one of those days will be fine. Here all day, Tuesday.
Y'all figure it out.
You have church on Wednesday.
I do.
Do they need to meet on that Monday, Brian?
Probably, that would be the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably if y'all don't have 3.
That's,
That's the Monday after Easter.
Is that a holiday?
Right.
Friday's the holiday.
Is school out that day?
Spring break,
Yeah, probably not a great day.
that whole week.
Well, and we could do an extra day on one of the other 2 weeks if that's gonna work better.
Or if you did it on Wednesday, you could move it up on Wednesday. 3 or 4.
Okay.
That way.
Do a morning
Still
session.
be church.
Okay.
Start at maybe 10 and go to 4. Okay. We can
Is that suitable for everybody? So run 10 to 4. All right.
I mean, I know last year we didn't have it. Last year we had a reappraisal. How many people?
Well,
Some of those that didn't get solved by the company. I know this year's unique.
this year's unique, and
hotspot
and
that
I'll
we've
draw
ever seen.
parallels to 2009 because the market was pretty robust in 2008 leading up to that point. I expect probably upwards of 150, maybe 200.
For us, the
Right.
board.
Right.
And generally, what kind of time frame? 30 minutes for,
We usually allow 15 minutes. And unless it's a complex property, then we'll allow a little more time. Got income producing property or something that's going to require us to get a little bit more in detail, then we might have a little more time.
What have we got? April the 12th, the 14th, the 20th, and the 21st?
12th, 14th, 20th, 21st, 26th, and 28th.
with this being a small community, if there's a conflict of interest on that board.
Then you
Two,
want to recuse yourself
and then two can vote on it.
if they agree.
How complex does that conflict get? Because I've had a conflict ever since I've been a commissioner.
Let's say blood.
I started to say it's got to be blood or something. 'Cause
That doesn't mean somebody's made you bleed.
Family relationship or bid.
Right.
What time on the 12th and the 14th?
27.
And the same on the 21st, the 26th and the 28th.
Yes, sir.
What was the other dates? The
26th and 28th.
and you just need, we can, I guess, divvy these up amongst ourselves.
As long as we've got 3 people, that's
What's the times for the 20th and 21st?
20th is 10 to 4. The 21st is 1 to 7.
All of them's 1 to 7 except 20.
Right.
So you know who is tonight, who's gonna be what day, or is that something we can come back?
That's something that y'all will discuss amongst yourselves. And then if you will at some point, holler at me and let me know.
I'll definitely do that.
The biggest thing is I've got to advertise this in the newspaper.
When do you have to have it in the newspaper?
I'll probably call tomorrow.
But you don't need it all to do it today.
No.
As long as 3 people show up. That's right. Nominated for each day. Keep it over.
Anything else?
All right, come on.
Okay.
Just trying to get along.
Thank you, Claire.
All right. We're moving on to item number 11D, Ms. Risa Larson.
Hello again, as Commissioner Masters said, this is Risa Larson representing Search here again from about 2 weeks ago when y'all asked me to come back and talk about the $13,000 that y'all have in your budget. And the position that we have, hasn't changed since 2 weeks ago. I didn't bring any new materials. I would ask if there's any further questions or if y'all have any decision for us tonight. I mean, I'm happy to go back over what we said last time if that's helpful.
Can you talk to us a little bit, Risa, about the survey that you intend to do and what benefits that survey will be and what actions y'all will implement from the survey?
So I think it would be wrong to call it a survey. Okay, so let's start by setting some groundwork that the community health assessment, that a collaboration of organizations in our 3 counties has just come out, heavily involvement from the health department, but also from this group that we're intending to hire, the Western North Carolina Health Network, which I'm going to call the Health Network from now on. They did a bunch of surveys. They collected a bunch of what they call primary data and secondary, and all of that stuff is in that incredible document that they just published. I think it had come out like the Friday before I saw y'all at the meeting 2 weeks ago. So that huge effort to do that survey is kind of done for the next 3 years. Our focus, in addition to this other set of data that they keep up to date, is more on metrics that have to do with the hospital. So the community health assessment is more about how's each of y'all's health and what's the health of over 65-year-olds and what's, that's a whole different kind of category. The title that they had given, the network gave us for the effort we're intending to hire them for is access to care. So we want to focus in Mitchell, Yancey, Avery, and McDowell counties, because we definitely feel that Mitchell County's hospital is in competition with McDowell County's hospital as two of the regional hospitals under Mission Health. We want to make sure that we're getting our fair share of services, our fair share of investment to the community. In fact, I think since we saw y'all last, we have spoken to Tanya Hale, and she is intent on reinstituting the roundtables and having you all and the mayors, come in and look at what HCA is doing to invest in our hospital. But so we want to focus on some other information that's not there. And, particularly, let's remember last October, we came to see y'all and convinced you to respond to Maureen Koploff, the then commissioner and now mayor of Brevard County, Brevard in Transylvania County, because she was looking for other counties to, support her efforts to get more information out of HCA about the viability and the future of our hospitals. And y'all responded to her and said, right now, we don't have anything, but as soon as we've got something, we'll be back in touch with you all. And so it's more that, and then we want them, these are smart people. These are people that do this for a living. I told you about some of the folks that are on the committee, the team that we have working. It's a lot of retired doctors from around here, some retired engineers like me. We are not smart in this effort. So that's why we want to hire these people, and they have access and knowledge of other sources of information, for instance. And I'm just sort of making this up, but I will tell you, I personally, watching the COVID numbers over the last, 2 years, I have been able to spend hours drilling down on the CDC website and getting all the way down to Blue Ridge Regional Hospital and seeing how many COVID patients were in there. So somewhere out there in vast databases, there are reporting requirements that hospitals have to do that I don't know where they are, and I don't have time to go find them all, but we want to go hire people to help us do that. So I want to correct you about a survey as opposed to going out and finding other information that might help all of us, the community, understand the viability of our hospital, and also sort of augment the knowledge of what the community health assessment, which I want to say again, it is an incredible document. It just came out. I'm sad it's not on the Toe River Health District's websites yet. It's not on the PATH website yet. I've written to them and say, where is it? So the public can go and look at it. That's an incredible document, but we want to augment it and then use what we learn. There's a data set we want out of them. There will be reports to figure out other grants to go after to improve access to care. So whether in the future, once we have that knowledge and study it, whether it's a grant we go after, we suggest PATH goes after, the health department goes after, that's up in the air because we're not sure what we're going to learn. So I gave you a really
Okay,
long
so-
answer. So ask
So
me
if I
another
can
one.
break it down, 13,000 y'all are requesting
Yes, sir.
would go to purchase this data from the people who are gathering the data for search to have so that you could have greater information to be able to go after more money.
Absolutely.
following?
But again, it may turn out it's not something we should go after. We may say this is a hole in our community. Somebody needs to go after a grant. Dogwood would probably support that. Amy Wellness would probably support that. It may be Search, it may be somebody else. But also we're not asking them, we're not just buying the data from them. They're going to go look for the data. We're going to tell them the kind of things we're interested in. In some cases, they may say, oh, look, it's right here, but we happily can pay them to compile it for us. They've already got a 250 tab spreadsheet with data about all 16 counties, and they also have added now Avery and McDowell County, because originally those were not in there. They've already got this huge thing, but there's more information we want. So we want to hire them to do the work, to compile that data, help us. They use this great phrase that I really liked, co-design a report. And whether that's a report, that's a PowerPoint set of slides, we come show y'all, whether it's just the database, then I come show y'all a bunch of Excel charts, or we're not sure. We're not sure what we're going to learn.
So is the cost of this per package, or is it a $13,000 invoice? Exactly.
Like what would the study cost total? That's a question I had.
So if y'all remember the piece of paper that I brought in that said, y'all got 13K and we'd like to spend it, on that piece of paper, it said tier 3, and that was the highest level cost of theirs. And since that day, we've talked to them more. And so now we've got a range of costs from them. I'm trying to make sure the public can hear me. So the low end of those costs is 7K. The high end is 17K. So we have some funds. We have gotten some grants in the last couple of years. We've gotten donations from happily, the public that cares about our work. So depending on what y'all are willing to fund, we will augment it, and we will, get everything we can out of the work that we're hiring to do. And the concept right now, assuming we can make a decision, know we've got the money and start the work, is maybe 6 to 8 months of effort.
Teresa, if I may, I kind of have a conundrum. I feel like you guys did the work, did a lot of work for this grant, and I feel like you should have a say over how it's spent. My other conundrum, though, is I have a copy of the health assessment that was done in
Oh, good.
2021, and I'm not sure I would have ever seen it if we weren't talking about spending money for another assessment. So I guess my point, without beating around the bush too much, is I guess I'm skeptical that a study would be the best use of that money when we have so many tangible needs. I mean, personally, I would like to see that money go to direct patient care in some way. So if you could help me reconcile that, I would be grateful.
I hear you, but have you been in the hospital lately? You know how far 13K would go? So I'm trying to say we would love to invest that in some more tailored study work to help us determine where the gaps are, to help figure out which other grants to go after. So it's more in that spirit. I hear what you're saying. I appreciate what you're saying. I don't know how to go spend 13K, and I will make it clear, search is still run by a bunch of volunteers, and we are not a direct service organization. My hat is off to the health department, to the Partners Aligned Toward Health, the group that's called PATH, the Partnership for the West Blue Ridge Partnership for Children. Those are more direct service kind of organizations that truly go out in the community and help people. So I don't know how else to answer your question, sir.
So when we got this money, when we received this money, I think it's Susan Larson, it laid out some ways that you suggested that it be spent. And one of them was food pantries. The other one was small gifts to seniors through the Senior Citizen Center. Another one was through WWAMI. Safe Place was a place that you guys had deemed might be appropriate, and the Head Start. I would personally feel, for whatever reason, this money's ended up on our account and we have oversight over it, good or bad. I personally would feel a lot better if it was going one of those organizations rather than a study.
And to Commissioner Pittman's point, last meeting, I was completely in favor of letting y'all have this money because I felt like you did push the survey for the census and all those things of which I'm appreciative for. We just heard in our DSS meeting that government programs are going to be scaled back because they're coming to an end based on the COVID pandemic. And we're going to have upwards of how many senior citizens?
125.
Upwards of 125 citizens that are senior citizens that were receiving $250 worth of food stamps during COVID. Now they're going to get $20. That's going to be a huge impact. And I'm just wondering, is there any way that Search could partner, for lack of better terminology, with the county to help feed these people with this money?
And I know that's probably a decision
And
you
I,
need to
and
take
I
back
know
to your
that government
board.
really treads on thin ground when we're talking about that stuff, but if it's search money and we give it back to y'all for use, can you help feed these people?
So it looks like Susan wants to say something. Do you want to come up to the microphone or?
That's a social determinant of health, so.
Absolutely.
I'd like to put a slightly different perspective on the way these funds could be used. Not necessarily to go after more money, but to create a picture of healthcare as it exists in the county now. I think you might agree that there are some blind spots in our healthcare, and it's very fragmented. And we want to know where the problems are. Actually, last week I asked during one of the health assessment meetings about the assessment. Did they feel, just Harley, did she feel that they really asked questions about the hospital? She said, no, they didn't. There were two questions on this whole survey that had, one was about insurance, whether people had insurance or not. And I don't remember the other one, but it was a big survey. They did not touch on the hospital. They didn't touch much on how we're being served by providers in the community. Where are the slippages? That's what we need to know. And in Reese's defense, I don't think we ever have said that we're a service organization that can do that, but we will get knowledge that will show what's needed. We're trying to paint a picture of healthcare in these counties. And from that, give you data and us data that we can use for, I hope, building a healthcare system that serves all the residents of Mitchell County and other counties, but particularly Mitchell and Yancey, to the best that we can. And Reese and I haven't talked today, but I'm going to share something that I think might be helpful to you that happened today, which is that we have co-chairs. We're right in the middle of reorganizing things somewhat for search. And the committee that will be in charge of doing this assessment and getting the questions are two people, Arisa, and two people that you know pretty well. They will co-chair the committee. They are Josh Newton from MCHP, who used to be the clinic care manager, and Alex Green for oral health here at MCHP too. They are on the search board now, and they're going to co-chair this particular committee, help with the questions that we want asked. We will probably do it this way, do data survey, ask the health network to get the questions answered that will come closest to giving us a picture of how well the hospital and other care givers are servicing this community. That is the first question. And then what do we do about it? And if we don't get the questions answered from the data, we have the option of going to the health network and asking them to ask more questions of our residents. They did 225 surveys in this community, in Mitchell County. It's a terrific survey. It's amazing what's in there. But, and they can do not that many because it's very expensive, but we could get more information about people's needs in this community. We're trying to do it from the bottom up with our community engagement process, which is going well. This is another approach. We're multifaceted, trying to build a picture of the community. I certainly agree with you. We have all kinds of needs here, and my heart goes out to people who have these needs. But in order to fulfill those needs, you need to know what they are, and you need good information, and they have it, and we can get additional information. So,
And I'd like to say respectively, I wasn't trying to back you in a corner by saying, I realize that you're not a foot on the ground benevolent
good.
organization.
okay,
I'm just,
You
I
know, I
didn't mean to skew the
understand.
lines with that. I just was
Yeah.
simply saying, is there any way that we could fashion it where?
That money went to those.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, if I may,
Mhm,
you serve Yancey and Mitchell, correct?
mhm.
Okay, did Yancey also get a part of this money for the census?
They did, and I'll tell you what they did with it. They gave us $1,000, as you did. And the rest of the money, they had a foundation set up for COVID response. And that's what they did with it. Jamie McMahon, their economic development person, is in charge of that foundation. And so that was it.
Thank
And
you
that
for
was
that
2
transparency.
2 years ago, whenever that money came in, that's how, it was immediate choice there.
Ms. Larson, just hypotheticals. I guess my question would be, what if the hospital doesn't participate in this study? What if they just,
That's why we're doing it.
so my second part of that is, let's hypothetical. They issue, this study does a blistering report of the services of the hospital. What does the hospital do with that? Do they pay attention to it, I guess is my question.
So far, I trust that she wants to stay here and be part of it. She wants to grow. So I have to talk to her, and I will call her out whenever I feel like she's not doing that. But since Friday, my doctor, my husband's doctor, and my sister's doctor, the same one person, has resigned from the regional hospital. So, I want to go back and make that distinction between health. That's a community health assessment, and what's talked about is access to health care. Do we have the doctors? Are the nurses staying? Is the hospital going to stay open? It's a slightly different viewpoint.
I guess I kind of, the issue that I'm having trouble resolving, maybe it's because I just, this is not my area of expertise. But, when you do a study, how do we implement it? Like, how do we implement the findings? So what if we find big glaring holes? Well, we spent the money to do a study. How are we going to implement what we found?
Well, of course, that's the question. What do you do next? What do you do with it? And that's what Serge is talking about too. And we have to decide as a community then if we're going to take the next step and work together to fill those holes. It's not something that our organization can take on, but we can provide the information to do it. You see, it's a big job to bring the community together to look at healthcare. And that's what we're trying to do. That's all. And it's incredibly important to commissioners, to everyone, because it is such a central, important service for living here. Would you come here to live if there were no hospitals?
Both of my children were born at Blue Ridge.
Right.
And for the
so-
record, I'm not trying to be difficult to get along.
No,
with.
no, I understand. It's just that I think that we all need to wake up that rural hospitals are threatened. And how do you keep rural hospitals? You work together as a community. And we're doing one small part of it, which is focusing attention on what's here and what needs to be here. In McDowell County, I'll tell you what they did. They were offered $500,000 grant from the KP Reynolds Foundation. And they had lots of meetings as a community. They came together, they started initiatives. We could go that way, but we need information. But they had all that money. We've done what we have done with very little money, but people talking and working together. And that's what we're hoping to do with this information. So.
Thank y'all.
No more questions?
Comment.
Yes, sir.
I think we've all, anybody in this community, and I'll throw Yancey County in, is very concerned when HCA took our hospital system over. There was major concern that we would not have a hospital. And they've committed to 10 years. So
And 3 are gone.
that's what I was gonna say. We've
Thank
got
you.
about 7 years left, guys. I think all of us have had a major concern on transport by EMS. And that's been a huge discussion since HCA took that over. The hospital is vital. And I can see where everybody is coming from. And this is only my opinion. We've got needs, we've got people that were $250 and they're very much in need because everything has changed. Now they're gonna get $20. That just blows my mind. I cannot comprehend how the state of North Carolina could even. Blows my mind. This group is a volunteer group. Everything they've done has been on their dime, their time. A lot of research, meetings. They're wanting the best out of the community, for the community. Not only gathering research, but I think possibly a little bit of accountability. If we see that our hospital system is not functioning correctly. One of those might be piggyback and say, okay, you're supposed to have a transporter up here. Here's what the law says, right, a transporter up here. Why is our EMS constantly leaving this county to transport? You're supposed to provide that. You're the facility. Is that going to change anything? Maybe not, but they may get tired of hearing. Or it will bring attention to somebody's eyes and maybe other people will start questioning. I guess my thought is we wouldn't have had the $14,000 to start with if this group had not have done what we give them $1,000. I'm no medical expert. I don't have time, if I were, to dwell and try to find answers that probably need to be addressed. Unless somebody can convince me different, that we can make this $13,000 do a lot better job somewhere else down the line. I'm in total support of moving on and giving this money to these folks, because here again, I'm gonna say, we wouldn't have had it if they hadn't done the work.
I'll agree with you, but I'll respectfully disagree a little bit as well. Large part of the reason why we received that money is for the work of these volunteers. I don't want to discredit that in any way, shape, or form. I'm thankful that you guys are here, but Mitchell County citizens ultimately are the ones that took the survey, and I feel, obliged to make sure I think their money is used wisely. I heard today a report, and I've not had time to follow up on it yet, but I heard that we don't have an AED in our daycare facility. And I would hate to think that we neglected to use that money to put an AED up there in the event that a child needed it. Instead, we spend it on an assessment, which I'm not 100% convinced that HCA is going to pay attention to. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Again, I don't want to be difficult to get along with, but
since then, the information. I'm not opposed to giving y'all some of the money. So that, effectively, if the board would, I would like to take it.
Well, I would be in favor of giving them the money, granted it was for something other than a survey. If it was gonna go to directly to service of individuals. Or a survey, I guess was the wrong word, a study, I apologize.
So I make the motion to take it. Besides, we need a second. on the table.
Yes, okay.
And I say,
I'm not seconding no more tables for one.
Okay, Jeff.
I second
Sorry.
this table.
Okay, all in favor? All vote, anybody opposed? Okay, let's move on to item number 11C.
You want me to take the lead on that?
I'm assuming yes.
Okay, I'll take the lead on 11C. So DSS has gained another opening. And rather than asking for county approval, I believe they want to look at maybe restructuring some positions. We had a conversation, I believe, last time about ending the hiring freeze and letting that responsibility kind of defer back to the county manager. And I personally would be in support of that. I think it kind of drags that process out, especially when you have like openings in CPS where those need to be filled pretty quickly. I believe between our director and the county manager, they could make an appropriate decision there. And I think we've used that hiring freeze for its intended purpose. And I don't really see any reason to continue it.
I guess the discussion on that, when you say have to be back to the county manager, so in making the motion to end the county hiring freeze, you would not defer that decision to department heads, but you're saying all of the county manager.
Yes, I would be comfortable with that, but I mean, as long as it's in the budget, we're not talking about. The issue with the hiring freeze, I think, is, I'm still not clear if is that all, you might have to help me here, counselor, but I believe according to the ordinance, and I think there's some confusion about this, we have to approve every single new hire, whether it's in the budget or not. And I think that's a responsibility that our department heads and our county manager together, as long as it's in the budget, can make that, are capable of making that determination.
I don't disagree. I guess.
Well, I'm okay with ending it all together. So,
I would support that. I would.
okay.
And I would have, respect both comments. At this point in time, I'm in favor of leaving it like it is, having a hiring freeze in effect, comes to the board. We hear from the county manager, we also hear from finance. I think the reason that it was put in the past, there was abuse that happened with funds. And I understand your concern with DSS, but we're down from 97 to 32 kids. So, we should have enough people on staff. It's even been pointed out that they had enough on the CPS side to transfer one over to the APS side. And it's still been unclear if the supervisor of the CPS carried the caseloads. So at this point in time, you know, out of all respect to my board members here, I would vote against lifting a hire.
Would you, just for discussion's sake, would you support allowing the county manager to be, I guess, the check in that system versus us? The only problem that I have with that is, we're in a super competitive job market. And like if you take CPS, for instance, some of those positions aren't flexible up there because of the requirements. So if they get down, 2 and 3 positions, all of a sudden caseloads pile up and people are being stressed to the max. And then all of a sudden, that car hop job at Sonic that pays $20 an hour looks appealing. I wouldn't want that to snowball while they waited for us to reconvene, to discuss it.
For me, I still stick to the hiring freeze. Go through the proper channels, you direct the council immediately to the county manager. Always have a special call. For these situations, I don't think it's broke right now, Brandon. As far as the hiring freeze, I think it worked well the last time. Yeah, we did take a little bit of time on that situation, but there was no urgency. We heard from our finance director, HR. We got direction from both of those. And, I would hate to have a decision made and Mavis turn around and say, we just spent $43,000 that was not in the budget. And now we're gonna have to take this out. But, that's just my opinion right now. If y'all want to table this, I'll be happy to support that. If you want to put it in motion to lift, I will respectfully vote against it.
If, just for clarification, Mavis, if it's not in the budget, even lifting the hiring freeze would not allow them to add a position. Is that correct or not?
You guys do,
So could they do the hire, offer a job position if it were not in the budget before it came to us? Or would we have to approve that first? So we're really not speeding the process up any by lifting a hiring freeze, because ultimately it's still got to come to us.
But
we need to approve it.
So hiring freeze is just that.
Would you guys be opposed to leaving the hiring freeze in until after we've done the budget and we come to the end of the fiscal year and then bring it back?
I can support that. June, right? We're just talking about a few more months. Yeah. And that way we could eliminate any positions that aren't filled and kind of ensure that we've used that for how we wanted to use it.
Mhm.
That way there's no confusion. I'm good with that. No, we'll wait. I want to restrict.
Alrighty then, so
I
don't
guess,
think
do you want
so.
to table it?
do we need to table it or it's just,
Okay.
we'll just leave it
Yes,
alone?
it's not, it's just-
It's just.
Okay.
Alrighty, moving on to item 11D. Acquisition of Bowman Middle School property and Garland property from school board.
I guess I can talk about that a little bit. County has several needs for partners to find a home. me. Facilities that they are very good. I think it would be. I don't know what plan schools is making for. Police department also. Chris, just to tell you the truth, almost middle school looks what more does it does to you. You're getting rid of it because it's old and we'd love to have it. That's what we'd like to talk about. Some way we can work something out. That's just, the call is yours because until you say it's surplus property. I did research the property and found that it's 4 tracks of it. We have a lien on 2 of those tracks. Here's our property, which is about to be paid off. Property is in our name, if we would be by law required to, we can make 2 schools. We're going to provide a law. Hope. That's who's got to turn it around. But I did look carefully. That's something I found over the years. People convey property to schools or sell property to schools. They want to be sure it always remains a school. And I can say from the history of back to 1922, there is nothing in the records that requires that to be a school. So, right. So there's 8.16. All the facilities are on foot. We do not have. We have a lien on the field and the football. But not on the remainder of the school. And the remainder of the school is still in the name of this kind of construction. And 2 tracks and a football field behind the school. Now, you folks all know about facilities. I think it's something that advisable. Talk to the board about. We're getting ready to give them this property. $6,000. That's something the 2 boards are going to have to do. I just want to guess something would be beneficial to us. The other one that I looked at, property they acquired from Garland's. It is as far as building. It have somebody in the recreation side. There's a lot of that property. If you don't own the school property, it's not going to be suitable for much for recreation because it's too narrow. The area that goes up parallel with the school for about 450 feet is only about 120 feet wide. Unless they're going to give us some more land over there, decide to go with it, which I don't think they can, and bring it right up to the building. That part of that. Would be, it's wide enough. Could be more useful. Total of 5.77 acres. School would acquired it, and according to the tax code, it's gone. That's the property. See about doing since he's here. Mr. Calhoun, can you address your thoughts on the Carroll Garden property in Bowman Middle
I
School?
can address my board's not had a discussion on either property, but my team has been looking at this for years. You know, we do plan, if you do have a team at the central office that has a vision, that we don't plan a year in advance, we're looking 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years out. So yeah, we do have a vision, or my team does, the board's not been privy to this discussion yet, but the team has a vision for the Garland property. We bought that property to build a road around the high school. That was the main purpose of us purchasing the property. As you all know, that's a dead end, which is terrible to have a high school on a dead end road. So we'd love at some point go around the high school and come around and back down. 2 lanes, one way, back out. That property also will serve as a potential 20, 30 years down the road as a building site for a small elementary school. It could also serve as a practice field or a soccer field in the 10, 15-year range down the road. So that property does have plans. We have not had any discussion on Harris, Deaton, or Bowman. I have had some thoughts on Bowman, not the entire school, but we'd love to have a alternative program and a pre-K program over at the Bowman side. And those 2 buildings on the outside, where we used to have pre-K and where the used to have the library, would make an ideal alternative school pre-K program. At some point, we're going to need the gym, lunchroom, possibly auditorium at Bowman Middle School. Again, that's in the future, because at some point, we're going to have to renovate Googe's gym or make it a gymatorium. We're also going to have to renovate the lunchroom. There's going to be quite a bit of work done at Googe as far as plumbing, electrical, several things going to be done within the next 5 to 10 years. So we would need a space for the kids to go eat, kids to go play. So the rest of the building, yes, I could definitely see us working with the county on as far as having offices and things like that y'all mentioned. Again, this has not been a discussion of the board, and it is the Board of Education decision. It's not a Chad Calhoun decision. It's a Board of Education decision. You know, Brandon's probably hearing a lot of this for the first time, but we do think ahead. And I think that's what our school system has lacked the last several years. I think we've had people in the past that's looked 1 year ahead. I don't think we've had anybody that's looked 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road. And that's been a problem. That's why where we're at today is we're in this mess now. If we don't get this $40 million grant, it's going to be scary. I shared with you all that the numbers that we have next year, right around 1,700, will fall into the 1,600s. We're going to the 1,400s, as I said earlier. That's concerning. That's concerning for everybody, because those kids are our workforce. So you think about our workforce in Mitchell County. So right now we're doing a study on graduates that graduated Mitchell High School 5 years ago. We want to know where they're at. I got Mark Woody doing that for me right now. I want to know where those graduates went that graduated Mitchell High School 5 years ago, because now they've had time mostly to graduate college. Did they come back and live in Mitchell County? Did they move off? Are they working in Mitchell County? Are they working locally? Did they go off for jobs? I want to know what percentage of our students that we're keeping in Mitchell County, because that affects this county. It affects the workforce and our future and our growing in Mitchell County. So that's the thought process. That's the thinking process. They're not, board members may have much better ideas than I do. You all may have much better ideas than I do. The citizens of Mitchell County may have much better ideas than I do, but that's just us as a central office team and thinking of what this school system is going to look like 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. At some point, Googe is going to have to be replaced. I think we can get another 30 to 50 years out of Googe, I think, with renovations. At some point, the high school is going to have to be replaced. Hopefully we can get another 40, 50 years out of the high school, but at some point, it's got to be replaced. And you all need to, understand, we have to plan for that now. And for us to be able to get a $40 million grant to build an elementary middle school is just phenomenal, because 97% of the schools built in North Carolina, 97%, are built with local funds. We can't do that in Metro County. We can't come up with 40, you all know that. We can't come up with $45 million. So we need that grant to make this thing happen. Then we have to look for future grants to make all these other things happen. And we're constantly writing grants. We're constantly looking how we can get money. We're constantly looking at every dollar we spend. If we save $10 on something, that's $10. We don't write it off. We don't pay somebody else $10 more just to write it off. We negotiate everything we do because it is taxpayer money that we do that. So that's my thoughts, and I'll be glad to entertain any questions. Again, Brandon's not been privy to a lot of this, but he may have a perspective from the board too.
If and when we get, we know that that is there. Keep it, I have to say voices before, but once we know we have that, we should know. Then what I would like to see is perhaps a couple of our board members, perhaps county manager, someone who's involved, is privy to some of those discussions, what we're kind of speaking of, to sit down at that table and have some discussion, and then we can go back to the board. And then we can bring our boards together to work together on that. I think Al earning that, like this, both your council and our council, correct me if I'm stepping in charter territory, I should, but I think that's how I envision that being able to work. Have a discussion, report back to the board, and then have those joint what that future looks like. I think in that time period, as we're moving forward with construction of the school, when we get that grant money, then we can be having those plans that once that's complete, what that time frame may look like as far as how we're going to utilize these. As I pointed to you, I think there's a lot of things, even with Bowman, and utilize to draw a lot of economic input as part of the county. Actually, wearing two hats, something I think certainly care for another council. Obviously, that are needed as well. How we might be able to integrate all these things together.
And Bowman needs some work. The electrical and the plumbing there needs to be replaced too. So y'all need to know that ahead of time. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done there. And a lot of those, if you want to crawl under Bowman and look, a lot of that's been put in tunnels and it can't go back in those tunnels. So that's where we run into a lot of issue. If you go into that, when you come around to the EC wing and go into that underside, you can go in there and see those tunnels that they put a lot of that stuff.
Just for the sake of preliminary discussion, I heard you say aspects of the school that you personally, not your board.
Yeah, it's just me.
Want to utilize. So from the county standpoint, hearing that, very interested in utilizing. I don't see how we could ever come up with a shared situation. We have possible school kids on the property and county functions as well, so. I think we all do need to get together and call them.
My question along that line goes, we spent 2 hours, 3 hours last week with capital budget and how we wanted some thought process. Well, it's gonna be hard to make some decisions on capital needs, whether we know if we've got that facility. So my question to you as superintendent and Mr. Chairman, let's say you want to keep part of Bowman, the county says we have no interest. How are you going to financially maintain that piece of property?
We couldn't. And
So-
we wouldn't have an alternative. We couldn't have an alternative school, or we
Yeah.
couldn't have,
So.
it would have to be a joint venture.
So, well, let's say it's a joint venture. 40% of the school in Williamson. How are you gonna finance this? What because the sales tax for at least 4 years.
There won't be a payment on these.
Five.
Now that we will have $5 million saved by the time the school is funded. There won't be a payment. There's no loan. So
But
we
you will
will
have-
get, correct me if I'm wrong, Mavis, if sales tax stays as it is, right around $1 million a year in sales tax. So hopefully we can start doing some things to gauge. We could do some things to this building at that time. We're not looking at a loan at all. Right now, we got about $2.6 million saved already.
And I think,
And there'll be some of that spent between now and then, because,
Yeah,
those
3
things will
million.
pop up.
yeah,
But by then, we should have 5 million saved. If we could save every dime, not spend any, we could have close to 7 million saved, but there's gonna be some needs.
I'm noticing, you're coming in here tonight and you're asking for sales tax reimbursement. About 8. Somewhere in that. And I'm sure your finance team has calculated in the year 2023, 24, there has to be a reserve on sales tax money on your end.
Well, and we're saying it's 45. We don't know it's gonna be 45. It may be $42 million. It may be $38 million. We can work with the architects to get it where we need to get it.
Well, let's say hypothetically, your proposal that you asked us to sign.
That was the high end, which I told you at that time.
Let's say hypothetically the high. I guess that's what I'm saying. I agree. I think we need to work together. I agree with Chairman Grindstein. We're all in, we're all. So all back to y'all to say, okay, now we're gonna have to keep all the money from it. We can sell half of it to another entity. So I'll throw this curve on you. Let's say the county got all the funds and you had leasing funds and you worked with the county and the county leased space back. But I think that, and I'm not gonna speak for anybody here, Vern's already spoken, but I think in general conversation, this board it's all about.
And you got to think, too, my board's not had any of this discussion. This is me talking.
Yeah.
First of all, we haven't gotten the $40 million grant yet.
Let's hope that's just.
But we have, but we have,
Sign the papers.
but we haven't.
Yeah.
I don't count until I see that check or get that call. I don't count on that. I don't count on money I don't have.
Yeah, we're gonna need a whole lot of places.
Yeah. Yeah, there's gonna be there's gonna be 3 plans, and none of the 3 is gonna be good if we don't get that money. I already have 3 plans, but none of the 3 are good, and nobody's gonna like the 3 plans. But we gotta get the 40 million first, so I think we're getting a little ahead.
I guess.
And 2, you gotta think about this too. There could be a whole new Board of Education by that time. There could be a whole new Board of Commissioners by that time.
I guess
Be realistic. I mean, they really could.
I guess
We can draw a contract.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. I agree. I think the best thing that we did is when we chose that CMAR and we chose those architects, is that we had 2 commissioners on that committee. I think Jeff and Danny were the 2 that were on there at the time. Is that correct, Jeff? Danny, or? Okay, so 1 commissioner and the building inspectors, which is great. I mean, I think y'all need to be along all the way. I mean, it's a community county project. I think it's something also you can draw people to Mitchell County, having a new school. I think that's a good draw for you all. I think housing is a big need. That's beyond my talk now, but I think we got to get housing in Mitchell County big time. That's how I'm losing teachers just because of housing. And I think you all know that.
I think the biggest issue is like, we're having difficulty moving forward because there's so much in the air. I'll speak since everybody else has. I think, the Garland property is just kind of a natural fit for the school. I don't envision it being used for anything other than educational purposes. But I would like the Board of Education to explore the possibility of us assuming control, assuming we get that $40 million, the county taking ownership of Bowman and then possibly leasing back some of those buildings that you guys would need.
And we'd be glad to present that to the board.
With that, I would say, in that, started rolling. In that request. Person from central office, the administrator, and part of work. We think that might look like so that we can have a conversation of what that might look like. In that lease and knowing that we're having some similar thought process.
And I don't want to I don't want to count my eggs. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But the sooner that process can start, I think the better. Because we're holding up a lot of projects, kind of looking into that crystal ball, and we don't want to spend money building capital projects that.
I think we started a lot of processes when we get that grant back in April. I think that's when it starts wide open at that time and you start planning for everything.
I guess what I'm asking you all.
Yeah.
Work on our half.
And I think that's a great idea. I think you as chairman and our chairman need to head that. Get two people together from your board, if that's good with you, along with the superintendent, our county manager, same here. And let's get this process rolling, because it's going to be the 1st of April, and let's anticipate. Sometime when money comes in, I feel like we got an ace in that pocket.
And I think
I'm counting on that 40, and I'm counting on 5 for a law enforcement center. I'm believing all of this is going to happen.
If we don't get that money, we're still going to need to meet and have some conversations. Yeah, they're going to be less enjoyable.
But I agree, I think we need to go ahead and have it together and have everything worked out. Already got it figured out.
Two members from your board, 2 members from our board, bring everybody's thought process together. You guys hash it out, have a plan,
And we
have a
schedule
joint,
meeting.
have a joint meeting, say, here it is, and I'd rather meet sooner than later. Get caught in quicksand, right? Because I think as soon as y'all get the money, you're gonna be rolling. One thing I point out, our board has done a thorough evaluation of capital needs. And our budget process will start pretty soon. We may be putting other things in there. If we can save money on both schools, I don't think you're gonna need any of them, but they'll come. Willing to look at your projects, help you, and we're probably gonna have. That's the first, being willing, what's hard if you're not able. But I think what, we're willing and able. We got a lot of capital needs out there.
A lot of space needs.
Yeah, so maybe it's just space, and we don't have.
That's why, from our eyes, we're tickled pink. You got all this money to build a school. But it puts stars in our eyes too, to say, look at the space at Bowman. I mean, I know, I think we have to be very
Back to Mexico.
He's not gonna wanna miss another meeting.
All right. We need a motion to move forward with that on the committee. or no?
I make a motion, we form a committee of 2 board members, one being the chairperson and another commissioner to have joint conversations with whomever the school board chooses.
Second.
All in favor? All right. We're moving on to item 11E. This is a resolution. Be it resolved that Mitchell County Board of Commissioners hereby chooses to use all coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds for government services and further chooses the standard allowance as the method for determining the revenue loss amount eligible for use on government services.
This is ARPA money? That's ARPA
Yes.
money, and that meeting we had, that's the ARPA language. what y'all chose.
I move that we adopt this resolution as it's written.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay. All right. Item F, discussion of removal of buildings on proposed recreation sites.
There are 5 structures on this property. We'll probably be in the way of using that property as a site for exit dirt. Probably start the groundbreaking and moving earth. I think we need to be coming up with that. All construction, talk to Baker Fire. They say that it's possible to do it. I'm not sure they would, but he also said that before they can do anything, they have to have asbestos assessment of every building they buy. Those are. And then if there is asbestos, got to remove it. I feel like to talk to finance. Get somebody who is in business or demolition and moving to get rid of those things. We sold a mobile home, but they won't come and get it. So if I'm gonna have to demolish it too. This is not anything that would require a formal bid process, but I know you folks are not happy with doing anything, just everybody has that chance. Bid. What I would suggest is, I think we can identify local contractors, whatever, that will do this type of demolition. To get proposal, show them what they need to do. Give it to the lowest. That's what, Mark.
Make a motion that we allow the manager to do his proposal of gaining those quotes to get rid of the building.
Second.
All in favor?
He's too young.
I think most of y'all know it.
Item 11G is the school board request for sales tax reimbursement.
No, I don't have to pay.
That is a request from the school board to withdraw a portion of their sales.
can I ask a question? And this probably happened way before I was on the board. What is the purpose, what was the purpose of us holding their sales tax money? Was it when when we were gonna be paying back a loan?
Back when they were, I think.
Mhm.
And they were trying to hold the money. So they have a year payment, pay back on that loan. At first, the payment.
Mhm.
And I think that was the idea. Prior to that, we get the. They handled it.
This budget cycle. This budget cycle.
I'll make a request. Have to do that before the. Request prior to the 30th, so we can solve that from air. That on air liability, but. If once you. Strengthen that. Make sure you like start.
Mhm.
Really what we want. It's the only essentially. About airport. We're holding them.
Were we holding
This
that?
money they are requesting now, is money they have spent
Mhm.
for capital. They're
Or, were we holding this money because we were gonna co-sign the loan, or give the signee on the loan, I guess? So that's why, but now we're not gonna be taking out a loan to this.
At the time this was done, we had a fairly large readiness on the Hughes Act program. And we were looking at borrowing, probably not double digit, but close to double. And everybody felt like we needed to save as much of that sales tax as could be saved, and our board felt like they had some needs that they really need to come to us and we both agreed first, and otherwise, let's build, we had to start making up. I don't think the urgency now, that is. Chad, obviously, it's not Brandon, we're not gonna have one. And it's the only thing we can spend that money for, there's two things we can spend it for. Capital needs for the school or debt service for the school. We were holding it for the debt service.
Okay. I was just curious how that come about. Thank you, Lord.
I move that we, grant the request for $86,804.
There's-
Second.
All in favor?
I have one question before we move on. How long did we keep that scissor that we rented from Yates County? 13,000. I didn't realize that stuff was that high. I was trying to find the date on here from the time it was rented till it was returned. I thought, this is insane. I mean, I'm not at y'all, but I'm just thinking. It's a big riddle.
What? Moving on to the consent agenda. Has everybody had time to review? Do you guys have time to review? Motion.
So move.
Some second.
I'm looking to refresh my memory.
Oh, sorry.
I'll say.
All right. All in favor? All right, Mavis, you're up. Financial report.
Do a follow-up on a few, I'm gonna do a follow-up on a few things that got completed. We completed the sale on the 3 vehicles we had down at maintenance that we had surplus. We were able to get $7,232 for those 3 vehicles, none of which actually started when we sold them. 2 of them didn't have motors, but anyway, we got $13,200 on the LTV bus that we sold from transportation on govdeals.com. That also doesn't have a motor. It's got a blowed engine. I didn't check this afternoon, but the guy has till tomorrow to pay for it, which I'm sure he probably will. And then another 5 days or so to come pick that up. And that vehicle actually went to somebody in Illinois, I think. Anyway, and we actually had out-of-state bidders on our local ones that we did this time, which was unusual. We put them on our website and actually attracted some other bidders other than local bidders. I will say that the gentleman from govdeals.com came last week, sat down with Christy to go over any questions she had after we opened the account. Very nice gentleman. And we showed him our building out here, and his recommendation was not what we thought he would recommend. He actually said if we choose to put it on govdeals.com, he will help us do that because it's not going to be an easy task. However, he said, right now, vehicles and other things are going better than buildings like that on GovDeals. He said we have 2 things going against us is, mostly our location. The fact that it's going to be very expensive to move it because it doesn't have the undercarriage and things that it needs on it to move. He actually suggested we would probably do just as well or better just to put a for sale sign out here and advertise it locally. So we may try that. We're still at a standstill on that because we're still waiting for the titles to come back from DMV. So I will get with County Manager Heiss and we will discuss when the titles come in. We may try locally and see what happens. He was kind of negative on the building. He said he didn't care what kind of vehicles we had put them on there. But he was actually shocked and surprised at what we got off of our local ones. He did not estimate that they would have gone that much. So I think we're not doing too bad doing local. And now that we've kind of gotten more out of state and out of town people looking for those now, we may do just as well doing it locally. But anyway, that was an update on that. I worked on it today. You're going to see a budget amendment next meeting. One, to put some grant money and stuff that did come in. I've got some grant money and some fund money that are some new funds that we've got to set up. But one of the biggest things I went through today is we pretty much have exhausted for the year the money that we budgeted for gas, fuel oil, and propane. We did not anticipate the increase to the fact that we've seen it. So we have several departments that we're going to have to fund the rest of the year in fuel and propane and fuel oil. They've all gone up.
What's Mavis? Can I ask you a question now? Okay. What's transportation? Does she have a plan for?
She's close to being out. She's got to have money. The sheriff's department's got to have money. They're the 2 biggies. Sheriff's department's the largest. She's probably the next one down, and then the next one's going to be sanitation.
At some point, does she look at reducing routes? I mean, temporarily? I know that's probably not what she'd like to
Probably
do.
not this year because she's actually fortunate in the fact that she's still got some Dogwood Trust money that she's using, and she's still got that national transportation grant of 100,000. So to be honest, I can't see that she would be interested in reducing this year. Now, that's something she may have to do next year when her extra funding runs out. We're gonna have to give her some money for fuel, but she's gonna probably with these grants save some money on her salaries and things, because some of those grants are paying for part of her salaries and part of her other expenses. But we just gotta put some fuel in there for right now to get her through. Now, at the end of the year, it may come out and she can give us some of that back from some other funding, but right now she needs it. But the sheriff's department's gonna need a pretty good hefty amount, and we still have some overtime money we're gonna have to fund. So we're gonna be looking at a budget amendment next. The good thing is I've got some revenue I can offset most of that with. The bad news is we're not, I'm not decreasing our liability. When we went into the budget, we're 1.5 million in the red. And I usually try, by this point of the year, I can try to pay some of that, not have to use all that. But I'm having to use our extra revenue to offset our increased expenses right now. The other thing is Kathy Garland is going to her Boone High Country meeting tomorrow. We don't know that they will, but we are hoping that they're going to release some of the restrictions on the senior citizens. Right now, they can operate only at a reduced level, which means she can only have 32 people that come in for lunch instead of her normal 70 some to 80 people. She is hoping that they're going to release those restrictions and she can open the doors. If she does that, she's not going to be able, she won't have enough money to do those, to feed those extra people the rest of the year because of the increase in food prices. So if they do open the door, we would like to, I'll probably come to the board to see if we can increase some funding for her to continue to do the meals through the rest of the year, because we didn't, of course, didn't budget the increase in food either. She's having a really hard time getting not only the food for their menus right now, she's having to change those and adapt those almost every day. And she's having trouble, with the cost being increased. But we'll talk about that later. Once we see what they say tomorrow, they may not, they may continue the COVID restrictions for a period of time, but she would really like to get the center back to running and let the seniors come back. Right now, they're having to call by 10 o'clock to reserve a space if they want to come to the center. And once she fills up those 32 slots, she has to turn everybody else away. Not if they're not on the Meals on Wheels thing. Now, she was doing a drive-through and they could come by and pick up a meal. And I don't know if she's still doing that or not, but to be able to come in to the center and eat, she's been restricted to 32 people. So hopefully that's going to change. We're all hoping that will change. The other thing is budget worksheets went out. Outside agencies, their budgets are due by April the 13th. And for our inside departments, they will be working on their budgets and get those back to me by March the 30th. And so probably the first meeting in April, we'll probably talk about a budget schedule and workshops and what dates you want to work on those. I don't want to hit you with that till you get through your ENR, but we'll need to start looking at that schedule because we'll need to have something kind of in mind. And Brandon mentioned the AEDs earlier. I did look, we did start this year. We used just a little bit of FEMA money that we got reimbursed for some expenses from last year. We did increase, I was able to buy 6 AEDs. Okay, we need 10 more to cover everybody, including the daycare. Those are $1,245 a piece. So what we had done is, just because I had a little bit of FEMA money, we went ahead and did 6 this year with the hopes that we could budget and do some more next year. we would love to have those at every county facility. So if you're not familiar with them, we do have one in this building. And we also have an employee that trains all of our staff on those. Jimmy English from Communications does that training.
He does a good job. He's trained with the school.
And
too.
he, not only does he train, he also keeps up with those machines because they do have a date on them. The pads have a date, they have to be replaced like every 5 years. He keeps up with those for me and he orders those and makes sure those are in working order, and he does train departments. So that's something we can think about for later. Any questions? No, and somebody mentioned the $5 million. The $5 million is in the bank, drawing interest. Yeah, it's in the bank. And we also got the other grant that we talked about for the sheriff's department, the direct grant for 84,000. That's also in the bank. So it came in also. Anything else?
Don't want to do 77 for that budget workshop.
Sure, I don't mind at all. Knock it out in one day.
I think you would be good with it. You know, well, let's try for a new record.
Our record was 12:30 in the morning.
I know, but we didn't start till that afternoon. You know, we could make them 16.
All right, County Manager, do you have an update for us?
A couple of things briefly. Before March 15th. We do have one response to our RFQ. None of the other incentive bill. I did advertise that in the RFQ. Anyway, we will have soils analysis. One thing from Yancey County, the landfill, the solid waste part of the landfill, abandoned and closed for a long time. I don't know how many years. You said it was done when she came here, so it's 20 plus years. But it has never been, the closure has never been approved. And as far as Department of Environmental Quality goes, that's still permitted land. And they have finally, I think, cracked down, said it's gonna be closed, it's gonna be closed correctly. And so Yancey County has gone ahead and got an environmental consultant firm to draw plans for the closure and a schedule for closure. They have sent that to BEQ and BEQ has approved it. Pretty well mandated. They get on going with the schedule. And they're going to, there will be some costs, it's been estimated. But there's also some timber on the property. And as Austin told me that they believe that timber be cut and sold will bring more money than the cost of closure. So that's, or they're gonna do it. This the landfill is in their county. They're the ones that BEQ is looking to get it done. And that looks like we won't have any cost. We updated on that. She feels very confident from surplus. That's all I have. If I got any questions?
No question for another time. Do a great job. Thank you.
You're the one who's supposed to know. You share with you. Because you make the decision.
All righty. The Mitchell County Board of Commissioners will hold a closed session to General Statute 143, 318.11, Section 5, to establish or to instruct the public body, staff, or negotiate agents concerning the position to be taken on or behalf of the public body in negotiating the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract. Any motion?
I move we go into closed session.
Second.